What's up, everyone? Kriddle here, and a topic came up on my Twitch stream the other day regarding parenting in the tech world, and I'm actually part of a Facebook group that is parenting in a tech world, and this was kind of like a thing that some people in my stream brought up and were asking questions about. How do we deal with these specific types of things, like my kid plays too many games or is on their phone all the time, or those kind of things. And I was like, well, this website that I'm on, this Facebook group, actually talks about that quite often. And I'm very passionate about this subject because I'm a big gamer. I love to play video games, board games, card games, all sorts of games. I use all sorts of apps on my computer when I'm playing those so that I can play with friends, things like Discord, Twitch, YouTube. I watch those often. And I see a lot of questions in this parenting in the tech world page, I guess, or group that has a lot of those questions. And I try to answer them as best I can, but I figured I'd go ahead and make a video because this is something that really, really means a lot to me. And I want to try to bridge that gap between the parents and the kids that play games, or just between any two people. You know, some people are gamers and some people are not gamers. And usually it's kind of hard for those two groups to communicate and understand why they like to play games or don't like to play games. So that's kind of why I'm here, and I'm just going to kind of go over some of these posts. I am going to keep everything fairly private. I don't want to show anybody's names, but I do want to show some questions. The reason for that is I don't want to just give you some ideas, like say, hey, this is something that I saw. I'm going to actually show you real questions and some comments possibly on this actual site, so that you can see what kind of things that other parents or other guardians are looking at or asking, because these are real problems in some cases, and there's a million different ways that we can handle them, and some of them are better than others, in my opinion. Now, I'm just a dad. I'm not, a doctor or psychologist or anything like that. I'm just a dad, and I have a certain way that I deal with things, and it works for me and my family. And it might help you and it might work for you. I in no way am going to go through some of these and be like, this person is absolutely wrong. They have their reasons for asking these questions or doing things the way they do them. But I might give you a different perspective and say, hey, have you tried it this way? Or can you try this instead? Because I have different views on how we can parent better in this tech world. So let's get into it. The very first question on here is actually about Twitch. So it works out really well that I chose this today. Just 2 hours ago, somebody asked, hello, can someone please let me know how I can delete my son's Twitch account and block it from his laptop and computer? Thanks. So far, there haven't been any comments on this, but this is a question that pops up very often. How can we block Twitch? How can we block YouTube? How can we block things like Discord? And should we do those things? Well, I don't know. There's no more information about this particular question. I don't know what this person has done, but obviously their son, they want to block them from Twitch for whatever reason. It could be because they're watching inappropriate things. It could be because the parents just do not like video games and don't want them watching any video games or dealing with video games. I don't know, but in my experience, we shouldn't just take things away from the kids immediately. In this case, they want to block the Twitch account. It's very easy to do, but you do have to log into their Twitch account and you could change their password. If you could also go into your router and block the Twitch, www.twitch.com, anything that goes there, you could block that in your router. There's many different ways that you can do that. But in my opinion, Twitch isn't all that bad. I stream on Twitch almost every single day, and I try to make it as family friendly as possible. I do play a variety of games that range from E-rated games, which is E for everyone, and then all the way up to M-rated games, which are mature rated games. I play all of them. However, I try to keep the Twitch channel as clean as possible, and I try to keep those topics, anything political or anything that would be offensive to some other people. I try to keep those topics out of the channel completely, and I just play the game. Whatever's in the game, I can't really control, but usually if there's a choice for a character choice, I try to make a good choice rather than the bad choice. There are situations where I might make the bad choice for other story reasons, but and we talk about those usually in the Twitch stream when I do that. So I do try to go over every type of game. I don't try to just play kid games. I don't play just mature games. I play literally everything and anything in between. And we try to keep it as family friendly as possible. So when somebody asks something like this, how do I delete my son's Twitch account? That hits me personally because I'm like, okay, well, is it because you don't want your child to see things? And there's a lot of bad things on Twitch. I'm not saying there's not, but there's a lot of bad things everywhere. Your kid could go anywhere, be out in public and see something inappropriate. They could be on the internet and see something inappropriate. It's not just Twitch. It could be YouTube. It could be, a million different websites. But to go in and just delete their account, I would hope that there's more information behind that. However, this person doesn't need to explain themselves, but there are good things on Twitch. I feel like I am one of those good things. So that's just one of the first questions. And I'm going to scroll through and see if we can find anything else that looks to be pertaining to gaming and that kind of thing. Okay, here's another parent that has anyone been able to block Valorant. So if you don't know what Valorant is, it is a shooter game. So it's kind of like your Call of Duty, kind of like Fortnite, kind of mixing those two together. It's a little bit more cartoony, like Fortnite is, than the more graphic side where Call of Duty is. So in my opinion, Valorant isn't one of your bad games. Some parents may not like it because it's just you shoot guns at people and you're all trying to kill the other players. But it's not as bad as many of the others. So they're saying that they have this type of router and they know how to block things, but can't figure out how to block the game. I can block Roblox and Discord, but not this game. Again, Roblox and Discord, these are things that I feel like parents are blocking before they understand what they are. I'm not saying that this person is doing that. Again, I can preface that every single time I read one of these. I'm not trying to pick on any of these parents. But I feel like a lot of parents go to say, I'm just going to block Roblox, I'm going to block Discord, I'm going to block Valorant, and they don't really know what it is. And I feel like in those situations, sit down with your kid, play the game with your kid, use Discord with your kids, and see what it is, see how it functions. Because a lot of these things actually are very, very good for our kids. Roblox, for example, teaches your kids how they can build their own game. They actually learn a lot of game making ideas, and they can go out and create platformers. They can create little RPGs. They can create all sorts of different types of games where they can run around with their friends, and they can invite their friends over, or they could be invited to their friends' games, and they can all play a game together. That's the great thing about Roblox. The problem with Roblox, same as the problem with Twitch, is that we do have a few people, we have some here and there, that make things that are inappropriate for kids. And so where are we at with that? We can either block all of it or block none of it. It's very difficult to find a middle ground there and say, hey, this is what we can do. So I feel like what we need to do as parents is sit down with our kids and say, hey, these are the Roblox games that I like. These are the Twitch channels that I like. You can watch those, you can play those, you can do all those things. But if I catch you going to any of these other channels, then we're going to have an issue, and we're going to start taking things away until you understand that this is okay, this is not okay. Discord is very similar to that. So Discord is probably one of the best ways for gamers to communicate, voice communicate with each other while they're playing a game. Not every game has some sort of voice communication built in. So what they do is they join into a room. It's basically a chat room. Or a server that people can create, and then you can join into a chat room or a voice chat room with your friends, and you can have 20, 30 people in there if you want to. If you're in a big raid guild, let's say you're playing EverQuest or World of Warcraft or something along those lines, you need 20 people in your group to be able to communicate with each other very quickly. In some games like League of Legends, Fortnite, you might have a smaller group, but it could be 4 or 5 people in your group, and you want to be able to tell them what's going on without having to type it out on your computer. So Discord is a very, very good application. It's something that I think a lot of kids need to get into and need to try out. And it's a great way for them to keep up with their friends without having to use a phone. But you can put parental settings on there. There are parental settings to go in and see what servers your kid joins, and who sends them private messages, and who tries to friend them, and then you can lock that down to where they can only communicate with friends, things like that. But you as the parent need to sit down and look at Discord yourself. Don't just be like, yes, you can get Discord, or no, we don't want to have Discord at all. Sit down with your child and say, hey, let's take a look at Discord and see how we can make it safe for you, but also allow you to use it properly. Okay, so here's another one that I see fairly often. So I'm just going to read it and we'll kind of go over it. My 6-year-old who's in kindergarten goes on extended day and other kids bring in tablets or Nintendo Switch. He's been asking for a Switch and to play Minecraft because of that. I've been really resistant to letting him play and a lot of video games because he's only 6. I'm trying to figure, well, let's start with just that right there. At 6 years old, that is about the age where I let my son, or allowed my son, to start playing some video games. He did play a few games on a tablet here and there. He might get on my phone. What I used to do is I actually played a lot of games with him on my phone. So Pokemon Go came out when he was about 5 or 6, around that age. So we would go out and we would play Pokemon Go together. We would go to a Pokestop and we would catch some different Pokemon. We would battle some things, that kind of stuff. And that's how I introduced him into the games. I was playing with him on my phone so that he didn't have his own device. And we kind of went with it that way. Eventually, we did get him his own device. He still doesn't even have Pokemon Go on his device, but we did eventually get him a tablet. He also has a Nintendo Switch that he can play pretty much whenever. I have a PlayStation 5 that he has full access to whenever he wants to, and he knows what he can and cannot play because I always sat down with him and said, hey, these are appropriate games, these are not appropriate games. And as he gets older, I'm introducing him into more games. I personally sit down and play those with him rather than just buy him games and throw it at him, or just be like, hey, you go play the games on your own and do it all on your own. I think that's going to be the better way to go about it. So that's where I kind of want to start it with that. I'm trying to figure out the right strategy in teaching how to interact with technology in a way that doesn't detract from things like going outside to play. This is another reason that I wanted to go over this, is because we as parents feel like our kids should be doing the same thing that we did when we were kids, right? Technology has changed that, and just time has changed that. Back when I was, a kid in the 1980s, 1990s, I played a lot of video games, but I also did go outside quite a bit. We used to play basketball in the front yard. We'd play football, in the front yard. I'd ride my bike throughout the whole neighborhood. We had go-karts. We had all sorts of stuff. We were outside quite a lot, doing all sorts of things, but I also loved playing video games, and I was inside playing video games quite a lot as well. So I found that I prefer to play video games, but that doesn't keep me from going outside. Like today, I'm probably still going to go for a bike ride just because I like to get out and do that. But that's because, it was introduced to me and my parents did that with me. My mom would often go on bike rides with me or play outside, that kind of thing, play catch with my dad, all of that. So they were constantly interacting with me, doing those things rather than just telling me, hey, go outside and do something. Don't play video games. Sometimes they would sit down and play video games with me, but neither of my parents were really into video games when I was a kid. Now, every once in a while, my stepdad will play stuff like that, but they're still not really into video games the way I am. So they have had to learn, that that's my thing, that's my hobby, and that doing some of these other things, working on cars, fishing, playing sports are not necessarily the things that I like to do. Although I have learned some of those skills through the years because I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and we all kind of learned those skills. So I do think those are very important, but we're getting to that point now where video games and technology are starting to take over. And I think we as parents need to sit down and do those with our kids and interact with our kids, because I think that will help quite a bit. And then also, if you want them to go outside and play a sport, I feel like you need to go outside and play the sport with them, especially at the age of 6. up until maybe 10 or so before they have a lot of friends that they can go and play with. Once they start getting friends in elementary school and especially in middle school, they're not going to need you or want you around as much. But in those early years, they would prefer to play with you than to do anything else. My son, to this day, he'll sit there and play on his tablet or his Switch or PlayStation or whatever for hours if I just let him sit there and do it. But as soon as I say, hey, buddy, you want to do something with me? He instantly stops. If I say you need to do something like, brush your teeth, clean your room, those kind of things, he will get off within a reasonable amount of time and he'll go do them because he knows that I'm going to allow him to get back on those later on whenever he wants to. But if I give him that option to interact with me directly, he'd rather play video games with me or go outside and play soccer, play catch, whatever, fly a kite. We do all sorts of stuff like that. He prefers right now to go to the pool because it's starting to get warm. So, but again, he won't go to the pool by himself. He doesn't want to go outside and play soccer or basketball by himself. He wants somebody there to play with him. The only thing that he will do by himself is play on his tablet, play on his Switch, if somebody isn't there willing to interact and do something with him. So how have you approached this? I kind of just went over that. So far, my strategy has been to let him play on an iPad for about an hour or two on the weekends as quiet time, only after lots of good outdoor play, sports games, etc. So again, we kind of just went over that. This is where I think a lot of parents are not hitting the mark, in my opinion. Okay, I'm not saying again that this parent's doing anything wrong, but I think a lot of parents are like, okay, you can only play on your tablet for an hour or two on the weekend, and that's it. So 7 days out of the week, they're getting 1 or 2 hours over the whole weekend, assuming that they have done everything else that they need to do. I'm a little bit different in the way that I parent. I tell my son he has full access to his Nintendo Switch, to his tablet, to all the games. And I tell him, like, play those as much as you want. But as soon as I tell you to get off and go do something that I need you to do, I expect you to do it. And since I started with my son at a young age playing those kind of things, we would go out and we would play, like I said, Pokemon Go. And we would do that maybe for an hour or something. And we'd be outside doing that, which I think blends those two things together, which was great. So we would walk down to our neighborhood park where they had a Pokestop, and we would play there. And then I would say, okay, it's time for us to go home. And sometimes he didn't want to. Sometimes he was like, oh, I really want to catch, this Pidgey, or I want to catch this other Pokemon or whatever. I really want to stay a little bit longer. And I'd be like, well, we can come back down later. And that's how I kind of slowly talked him into being able to get off of things a little bit easier. I'd be like, well, we can come down later. I'll promise him I'll come down later. I'll just tell him, hey, we'll come back tomorrow, or we'll come back, in a couple days or whatever, as long as it's not raining, it's good weather. So he started to learn that at a young age, that he wasn't going to miss out on anything, because a lot of kids have severe FOMO. And if you don't know what FOMO is, it is fear of missing out. A lot of kids have that. A lot of adults have that, where we want to do something right then, right now, because we're afraid that if we don't do it right then and right now, it won't be available later on. And we need to teach that to our children, that you still can have access to your video games. We can still come back out here and do Pokemon Go or play something else. But right now we need to go do something else. And then we can come back either later today or tomorrow, or it might be a few days, but we will come back to it. So again, teaching those things to the kids, that they will have access to those, I think is a very, very good start. I think I could do the same thing on the Switch or Minecraft, but just want to see other people's strategies. Pretty sure the answer is just clear and defined playtime, but want to hear about what has worked. So again, they're talking about clear and defined playtime. When it comes to video games, board games, mostly video games really, and just things like on your iPad or on your phone, if you give them a specific amount of time, this is what I've noticed in my practices as a parent. If I say you can have access for 2 hours, they are going to use that entire 2 hours doing that, because they know that I'm going to take that access away from them. And so they will spend there doing it for the entire 2 hours. Now, I would look at that and go, wow, I have to take it away, because they're spending the full 2 hours doing that. They're not trying to do anything else. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, I need to start cutting back on this, because every time I give them the opportunity to do it, they do it the entire time. And that, in my opinion, is because we are telling them this is the only time that you can do it. We're not saying, hey, you can get on your tablet anytime you want to. You can get on your Switch anytime you want to, assuming these other things are done. We're saying you only have this allotment of time to do it, so they're going to want to go do it. Again, it comes down to that FOMO. They're like, okay, I have these 2 hours. If I don't do something on these 2 hours, I'm going to miss out, and I'm never going to be able to do it again. So I feel like giving them a little bit more access, allowing them to try to regulate themselves, especially at a younger age. Now, if you have kept it from your kids, and let's say they're 10, 12, 13 years old, and you're just now introducing technology, that's going to be a completely different hurdle that you're going to have to jump over. And it's going to make things a bit more difficult. You're going to have to start them off with those time limits and then slowly wean them off of that and say, okay, you're going to have an hour. Now you have 2 hours. Now you have 3 hours, whatever. And slowly let them know, like, hey, the more responsible you are with it, the more time I'm going to allow you to have it. And eventually we can get to where you have it 24 hours. You have it in your bedroom at night, because I know you're not going to get on it, because you know that you can get on it whenever you want. Some kids, we can't leave video game systems and TVs and phones in their room at night, because they'll just get on it and they'll stay up all night. We know that. But if they have it all the time, my son's got a TV in his room. He can put video game systems. I don't care. He never uses it. They never go into the bedrooms and watch TV or play video games. They always want to do that out in the living room. And I feel like it's because I've given them the access all the time. They can do it anytime that they want, so they don't feel the need to do it all the time. They're just like, okay, well, I can just go in there whenever I want to. And they're not missing out on anything. They're doing what they want to do. Okay, here's another one that really irks me. Okay, I've tried so hard to keep my daughter safe on social media. Nothing wrong with that. She turned 18 on April 1st, and I let her get Snapchat. She was 18, right? Tonight, my bill sent her an inappropriate picture. My bill, I don't know what that means, but somebody sent her an inappropriate picture. I'm sick to my stomach. I don't know what to do. I've let my sister know. Where we go from here. My daughter is 18, so she isn't a minor anymore. Where you go from here, she's 18. There's nothing you can do about that. Absolutely nothing. But I feel like the problem here is that you waited until she was 18 to introduce her to Snapchat. And at 18, kids are thinking, hey, what's the first thing that you did when you turned 18? What's the first thing you did when you turned 21? A lot of people, I'm not going to say everyone, went and bought cigarettes, or they went and bought alcohol. And that's an issue, right? I don't agree with cigarettes. I don't mind drinking some alcohol every now and then, but I don't really drink that much. But, anybody that is of age, if they want to smoke and they want to drink and they want to get on Snapchat, that's not my problem, right? That's something that they need to do. But this is a brand new 18-year-old that has never had access to it before. They're going to explore. They're going to see what's out there, and they're going to be like, whoa, I have missed out on this for 18 years of my life. Why did I not know this existed? And that's because I feel like too many parents keep that stuff hidden from their kids. And again, it makes them want to seek it out. We have, beer and wine sometimes in the fridge, and the kids know it's there. They don't go and touch it. They don't want it. They have no inclination to go and get it. And that's because it's just always there. Whenever I have a glass of wine or I'm drinking a beer or something, the kids are like, oh, that's an adult drink. I don't want that. And I tell them most of the time, it doesn't really taste that good anyway. Most of those drinks don't taste that good. They're more of an acquired taste, Smoking is not something that I personally tolerate, but if my kid was 18 and they wanted to go smoke, I'm going to tell them the bad things about it, but I can't stop them from doing it. That's something that they need to learn on their own. And I'm not going to stop my kid from doing it. I'm going to say, hey, I don't like that. I don't prefer that. And I would prefer that you not do it. And here's why. But ultimately, they're 18 years old. They can do what they want to do. So, we get a lot of questions like this, or I see a lot of questions like this, and those really do bother me because a lot of parents just don't realize, hey, my kid is getting to a certain age. They need to experience things. The reason that that you learn not to ride a motorcycle without a helmet, it's probably because you fell off your bicycle as a kid, and you hurt yourself. So now when you get on a motorcycle, or get in a car, you buckle up. You're safer because you've seen or interacted with somebody that something bad has happened to in that situation. So that's all I really want to say on that particular topic is, once they get to a certain age, it's not really going to be something that you can fix. You need to start these things when they're younger and introduce them slowly so that they can understand them as they get older. Let's look at this one real quick. I'm really concerned about my nephew who is 4. His mom, my sister, just hands over her iPhone to him for hours a day because he will scream and tantrum nonstop otherwise. My sister is not tech literate and doesn't monitor his activity on the phone. I showed her the screen time stats reporting that my nephew was on YouTube 22 hours over the past week and another 3 hours playing games. So 25 hours over the week, not in a day, which is how I first read this. She was concerned, but again, just said he will scream nonstop if she doesn't hand over the phone. I'm worried about my nephew and the loss of how to get through to his mom. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. And this situation is definitely a parenting issue, right? I understand where they're coming from, and most of these issues are actually parenting issues more so than they are children issues. Kids are going to be kids. They don't understand how to regulate their emotions. They don't understand that, if they have an ice cream cone and the ice cream falls, they're going to scream and cry about it because they don't think they can get any more ice cream. They think that's the end of the world because that is their world at that moment. That ice cream cone is everything to them. But they don't realize, oops, I made a mistake. I can fix this mistake by getting another ice cream cone. Or, hey, I made a mistake. I dropped my ice cream cone. Next time, I'm going to be a little bit more careful with my ice cream cone. So that's how kids are going to deal with it. This is a 4-year-old kid, and the problem is not the 4-year-old kid having the tantrum. The problem is the mom, in this case, based on what the sister says here. The problem is the mom is just like, here, take my phone, and probably has been doing that since they were very little, like 1 or 2 years old. He's just been handing them things to do to entertain themselves rather than entertaining the child personally. So like, they're not sitting down and playing games with the kid. They're probably saying, hey, I don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to hand you a device to keep you busy and keep you out of my hair because I'm too stressed out. There could be a lot of different reasons for this. I'm not saying that this mom is a bad mom. She could have many problems, like some depression or anxiety or anything. She could be a working single parent. I don't know. But the point is, these kids need interaction with other people. Kids are not going to do well if you just hand them devices and hand them video games and hand them anything, or even if you just tell them, hey, go outside and go play. They're going to sit there bored and they're going to want somebody to do something with them. And that is probably the biggest thing that I take away from almost all of this, is that if you sit down and do these things with your kid, you play the video games with them, even if you don't like video games, sit there and play them. I love video games, almost all of them, but there are times when my son wants to play something that I'm just like so tired of playing. Specifically, he likes to play Disney Infinity. I love Disney Infinity. I think it's fun, but what he wants to do is build an area and then play hide and seek in there. And you can't really do that. I don't want to go into all the intricacies on how that game works, but you can't really play hide and seek inside of Disney Infinity when you're on the same screen playing together. It's just not possible. It literally tells you where the other player is. So he wants to do that a lot. He wants to make these little obstacle courses and then wants to run through them. That actually isn't too bad to me. I don't mind doing that. But the thing is, I'll still sit down and I will play the hide and seek with him. I will play the obstacle courses with him. I may not spend hours at a time doing it, but I'll spend 30 minutes to an hour to let him know, hey, I will do this with you if you ask. And then he doesn't ask often because he knows when he does ask, I usually do. And it may, like I said, only be 30 minutes. I might just sit down and be like, okay, we're going to do this and I got to go make dinner, or I got to go do this other thing or whatever. Let's play the game for a little bit and then I'm going to go do something else and then we can come back to it later. And he knows that. So when I stop playing, he doesn't get upset. And when I tell him he's got to stop playing, he doesn't get upset. He usually is like, okay, I'm going to stop for now, and I'll come back to it later on when we're not doing something else. This is a kind of a generic one. So just a question for everybody. Would you guys be okay with your child using Snapchat and Instagram after they just turned 12? Personally, I would say yes, right? But again, this should be a monitored thing. This is one of the ones that I kind of want to look at some of the responses and comments, because you're going to see a lot of absolutely no, nope, not at all. And this is like an echo chamber, and where I come up with an issue with this particular group is Parenting in the Tech World. We have almost 500,000 members in it, but that's still an echo chamber. You're getting specific types of people in here that want to figure out how to lock down everything and how to take away things from their kids rather than give to their kids. So the majority of the people in this group are trying to come together and say, how can we restrict this from the kids? Somebody like me, on the other hand, is like, well, how can we give it to them but control it a little bit better? So let's jump down to some of the comments here. So this first comment, no way Snapchat, look it up. And then it talks about Officer Gomez. Officer Gomez is an officer that does talk about the online safety and things like that. And I feel like a lot of times, there's nothing wrong with what this officer says, but I feel like a lot of times people take the things that he says and they go crazy with it. I don't want to use fear mongering, but it's kind of like that, right? He says every kid has a 29 seconds or something like that of getting online and getting approached by something inappropriate. That's the statistic that people give out. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's very fast, right? So they get online, and now every parent thinks my kid's going to get online and instantly be approached by somebody inappropriately, and I don't want to deal with that, so I'm just going to shut the whole thing down. I'm never going to allow them to do it. And then we go back to that 18-year-old kid for the first time getting Snapchat or Instagram or whatever, and then they get a bunch of inappropriate stuff because they don't know how to regulate that. So there's a balance here that we need to deal with. So this parent right here is basically saying, check with Officer Gomez. He has a ton of Snapchat. It's not safe. You're right. Snapchat, not necessarily safe. Twitch, not necessarily safe. YouTube, not necessarily safe. Your kid getting on the school bus to go to school, not safe. Your kid getting in the back of your car in the car seat, also not safe. There's a lot of things that are not safe for kids, but we still do them anyway because we have to. They have to learn. You know, a kid getting in the back of my son, getting in my car, gets in his car seat, buckles up. We have slowly transitioned that now to where he doesn't have his car seat anymore. He went from a car seat to a booster seat, and now he doesn't have either of those, and he buckles up, and he is safe. He's as safe as I can possibly make him. But if somebody slams into our car, there's nothing I can do about that, right? So we have to kind of look at these things like, you know, teach them how to be safe. He knows to buckle up his seatbelt when he gets in the car. He knows when he gets on Snapchat or Instagram or whatever that he shouldn't be looking at certain things. And if those things start to pop up, he comes to me and says, hey, Dad, this popped up. I don't like it. For a long time, I gave him free access to YouTube, not YouTube Kids, but actual YouTube. He came to me and he was like, I'm tired of seeing certain things on YouTube. Can you please give me just YouTube Kids? And I'm like, absolutely, sure. So I took away the YouTube app and I just put YouTube Kids on there, and he started watching that. This is when he was probably 7 or 8. And so he learned that YouTube Kids also has bad things on it, just like YouTube does. And it's fewer, right? It's harder to find those things, but they are still there. They do still squeak through and they get past. So it's better to just, in my opinion, teach your kids how to navigate that. Tell them why they shouldn't be watching that rather than just saying, no, don't watch it. I'm going to take it away from you, or just not give it to you at all. Then they never learn. So let's see. Where's another one? This is just talking about Officer Gomez. So let's scroll down. Right here, you have nope, no way, no, minus 16 and doesn't use it. Okay, so you have multiple people here. This is, like I was saying, just an echo chamber of people giving you, they're kind of giving you permission to do what you're doing. They're saying, I don't do it, so you don't have to either. And again, that's not necessarily the best way to deal with it. We're going to keep scrolling down. Snapchat is a hard no. There was a report recently published about how damaging phone use and social media are on brains less than 16. It's akin to an alcoholic. There might be a study. I haven't seen the study personally. There's a nope, a nope, a no way, absolutely not. Son turns 14 in 2 months. Hard pass for me. No. So like from here, all this entire thing is just a bunch of people saying no. A lot of them aren't even giving reasons. They're not saying why. You know, this one is saying that they recently read a publication saying that it's bad for them. Okay, can you show me that publication? I would like to see that publication. I don't want to just take your word for it. No offense to anybody here, but how do I know that's a credible thing? Or is it just another parent that just, like me, is just going, nope, don't do it. It's bad for them, and here's why. And they're just splurting out a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to tell you why it is bad for them or why it isn't bad for them, but that's all I really want to say about these types of situations. That's mostly what I wanted to show with this particular question is this person asked a question and people are responding no without any further explanation. Okay, so this is probably going to be one of the last things that I talk about here. And this is another one of the Snapchat situations. And this goes along with, using Discord or watching Twitch or any of those things as well. It's not just Snapchat. It's not just TikTok. It's all of them, right? A lot of parents just want to lock down all these things, but they're like, you can have this one, but you can't have this one. Kids are going to be like, why? Why are you allowing me to have Instagram or Twitch, but you're not allowing me to have YouTube or Snapchat? Like, what's the difference? And this is where we come into our problem. So this question is, I suspect my daughter may have a Snapchat account, which she is not allowed to do. How can I find out? Again, kids are going to find out ways to get around this. I don't know how old this daughter is, but once they hit, early teens, they're going to have friends at school, or they're going to know somebody that knows how to get around these things, or their friends are going to have it on their phone and they're going to be able to see it anyway, right? So you preventing your child from having it and saying no, they're going to sneak around and do it anyway without your knowledge, and then you don't know what they're looking at, you don't know what they're doing. So in my opinion, like I've said for everything else so far, is I recommend getting it on their phones or on their tablets or whatever, or maybe putting it on your phone or tablet and introducing it to them together. Look at it together, go through it together, see what's okay, what's not okay. And most of the time, from my experience, the kids are going to come to you and they're going to show you what they're looking at because they want you to see what it is. My son has watched some weird stuff on YouTube, and he's got it up. It's open. It's out in the open, right in the middle of the living room. I can see what's on there. And I'm like, dude, what is that? Sometimes he tries to hide it from me and I'm like, no, let me see that. Like, let's talk about it. And usually that works, right? But if I were to always get on to him or tell him, hey, get off of YouTube or get off of Snapchat or get off of whatever, and I'm constantly telling him to do that, he's going to start hiding it from me, and he's not going to be out in the living room watching it. He's going to be hiding away somewhere trying to sneak it rather than be open about it. So that's how I would deal with situations like this. They don't have an age for their daughter in this situation. And if they are less than 10 years old, that's probably a whole other issue. But most likely in this situation, their daughter is probably 10 years old or older. They have their own cell phone and they're starting to get into these things, and their friends at school are already doing these things. And that's how kids communicate these days. They communicate through Snapchat, through Discord, through instant messages, through all of these things. They communicate that way. We used to call people, and talk to them on the phone for 3 hours. We can't do that anymore. My parents used to be like, hey, get off the phone, get off the phone, get off the phone. Mostly to my sister. I wasn't on the phone that much, but they would constantly be telling me, get off the phone, get off the phone. And it's because we were on the phone for hours at a time. It's the same thing, but now we're doing it through text message, through Snapchat, through Discord, through video games, that kind of thing. So anyway, I hope that helps out. That's pretty much all I wanted to say about this. It's a very strong topic to me, and I really want to help bridge the gap between parents and kids, especially the gamers, but just parents and kids that have these kinds of issues. I do stream daily over on Twitch. Come on over, say hello, and ask me any questions you may have. I'm happy to answer any of those questions. I'll put the link to my Twitch channel down below. Check it out, and hopefully I see you there soon. Take care, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye.